Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of Tank Talk. I am Relics James Starr, and with me today, as usual, is Soviet over on my right, Kirill Bondar, aka Soviet. And to the bottom here, we have David Williams, aka Nagatron. One time I'm going to get this introduction perfect. That was a nice wink. I like that. So today on the docket, we have just a little bit of information. We have the on-track event coming up. We have some tournament updates. We're going to take a little bit of a look at Clan Wars, see how the new changes have affected it since we have a whole week past now. Get some opinions out on that. I know Soviet will be looking forward to that particular part. We have some information we're going to give about our team, Fulcrum Gaming. And then we're going to go a little bit into the Championship League. We're now halfway through it, so we'll look at some of the placements that are on there right now, look at the minor leagues to see kind of who we expect to go through the top 8, who will then move on to the Major League. And then we have a couple big discussion topics here. The first one being, why do you think World of Tanks is less popular in the U.S.? And then we also have some discussion around eSports and how it's kind of affected our lives and how people have looked at it. So we'll have some good discussion around that, and then our usual Q&A at the end. Let's go ahead and jump into it. So first up, we have the IS-7 event, the On Track to the IS-7, which is going to give, it's from May 1st to May 15th, gives a 30% credit increase and 30% discount on the IS-3, the IS-8, and the IS-7. That is huge.
Best tank.
Go ahead. Say it. Say it.
Best tank. Russian armor. Great. All three. Great tank.
Yeah, I think we'll be playing probably the IS-3 quite a bit here this week, or, well, the next couple weeks, with that credit increase. It's already a pretty good moneymaker considering how much damage and everything it does. So, extremely looking forward to that. They had mentioned in the post, actually, that this is just a first of these events. Like, this is a new event they're introducing, so I'd expect we'll see stuff for, like, the T110 and all that. What do you guys think about this special event? It seems like this is more geared towards, in-game content type stuff.
Well, I mean, really, it's geared towards trying to get people to in-game content, which the more tanks they add, the more important that's going to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think it goes in line with the whole tank locking, especially for the U.S. It's going to help out. I know this one is international, right? So all the IS-7, IS-3, and IS-8 discounts are going. We're primarily targeted for Russia. Right now is the big May weekend holiday there. Labor Day, May 1st is International Labor Day, and of course May 9th is coming up, Victory Day in Europe. So that's for them. I think we'll see the T110 for Memorial Day. You think?
Maybe something over in that line.
E5.
Just we need more T110
yeah,
E5s.
T110 E5.
Bunch of one-tons.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and jump over to tournament news. We don't have a lot of other. There's not really anything else going on other than some of these great events where they're giving us cheaper stuff. We have the new skirmish that's coming out. So we have skirmish. I think this is 18. Yeah, skirmish 18. That I actually expect a lot of teams are going to participate as much as they can. Although I think it conflicts with some of the other tournaments. But it kind of gives some good exposure into the pro format a little bit. So we're looking at it being 7v7 with tier 8 max, 46 points on Prokhorovka standard mode. There'll be 10-minute battles and first to 3 with 5k for first place. What do you guys think about that setup?
It's an experiment. Doing once again, trying to deviate the points, the max tier points. It would be interesting to see Prokhorovka. Sorry. So Prokhorovka is the way you're supposed to say it. God, you guys are just. But anyways, encounter battle on that mode. The encounter was introduced for Prokhorovka this patch, and it's kind of good. I like it. I like the way it has been done. It's actually one of the better maps that kind of got slapped on, into a mode that it wasn't designed for. And what do you guys think about the encounter mode in the first place for Prokhorovka? Sorry, I kind of stole Relix's question there, but just real quick, might as well discuss it.
I like it so far. It's a pretty huge cap circle, as we've discovered, but there's a lot of ways to reset it. It's kind of hard to get in there and cap fast. But at the same time, if almost all of the enemy team goes to the 1-2, you can. So it's kind of a more balanced encounter mode than almost any other one. It's not too far from either spawn. Both spawns are equidistant, which is huge in a lot of encounter modes. Like Runeberg, for example, we know the southern spawn is way further away than the northern spawn. Unfair. Um, but then there's the rail line, which really divides the map in half. So if everybody ignores the cap, you can still take the cap and a line that they can't cross, which I think is cool.
Yeah, I definitely like the fact that in the cap circle, there's destructible buildings everywhere. I like the option that it could change pretty dynamically when you have artillery or something else on the map that can remove the cover that's protecting you on the cap. I think that makes it pretty interesting. I think.
But back to the skirmish. So 46 points versus 42. Most likely those extra points will go towards faster tanks in terms of scouts, with keeping the 42, the other 40 points towards the tier 8s.
Yeah. Do you think having because usually it's played with something like 4 lighter tanks and 1 artillery. Do you think like this expansion of points we're going to see maybe even some like heavier tanks or something, since you have the ability to bring in that fifth tier 8, tier 7 tank? Do you think they're going to go a little bit heavier, or just add in another light tank and still play it fast? Oh, stumped you.
I don't. I
You
think
don't think it'll
bringing a heavy tank to Prokhorovka would be a big mistake. Especially, of course, teams will most likely be running arty, and some teams can even flirt with tier 8 arty with that setup. So that would be, that map is very dynamic, especially, they first slowed it down a lot by introducing the various bumps, then they smoothened it out again. So it's a dynamic map, fast-paced, almost like, plays almost like steps in terms of speed-wise, right? Usually action is going on, people are flanking and, checking each other out, trying to get some lights going in the first part of the game, and then it's quick-paced action from there on out.
Yeah, I think I was kind of thinking like 5100 or T69, something more of that, because usually we see stuff like 1390s and WZs and 50-2s, things that are really light. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how much of an effect having those extra points on it is, to trying to bring something that's a little bit more BP or damage wise and making pushes that way rather than playing the more finesse game around the map.
The Panzer 38, is it 1C or something like that?
It's just Panzer 1C.
Panzer 1C. That's a tier 3, isn't it?
Yeah, the one with the super crazy I shoot lots of bullets gun.
Yeah, imagine that. So you bring 5 tier 8s and 2 of those, and off you go.
Yeah.
That's an interesting setup. It has a dynamic of good scouts and good tanks.
Yeah.
I would say, I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to play it, but I would say you don't really need to get to cap. You need to watch cap. And if you have an artillery, you can reset it no matter what. You can destroy any buildings that are in your way from firing with other tanks. I'd probably go with some sort of arty setup, at least 1 scout, and then just rely on the tier 8s playing well with the artillery to compensate for any sort of tank advantage the other people had. I think that'd be more reliable.
One thing though, it's standard battle, not encounter.
Right.
I wish it was encounter.
That would be interesting if it was encounter.
Yeah.
This led me with this encounter business.
He dropped it in the middle so he can confuse us. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to mess up everything.
Confusing relics is easy. I wasn't expecting to confuse Negatron, but
Ow.
sorry, man.
Do you think we'll maybe see like more artillery put in? Because usually we'll see something like a tier 6 to tier 8 artillery, depending on like who's playing it. Do you think we'll see that extra 4 points maybe thrown into a tier 4 artillery, or even trying to drop something around to get to like tier 5 artillery so you have multiple? Or you think it's still...
Well, a T50, right? Tier 4 scout, and then tier 2 bison. Could be bison has been used before in the pro leagues to use as a scout and to plant in a bush and have like a passive scouting role, but at the same time he can drop some shots in that people are not expecting. Also, playing with 2 arty is very misleading in terms of counting arty shots. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that's a bit of metagame that can go into it. If a small arty, for example, like Su-26 combined with a bigger arty, you'll never know which one. Well, of course there are ways to know, but it's going to be hard. It's going to introduce a bit more confusion, a bit more, focus is required from the enemy team to know who exactly shot when.
Yeah, I do remember us actually employing that tactic using a batch at 155 alongside a C-26, and although we didn't get the success we wanted out of the overall thing, the interesting feedback that we got on that was we never knew when your batch chat was loaded or was not, so it was always a worry. So yeah, that's definitely an interesting tactic along with that. Do you see this as kind of like a we've talked with Caleb, Lord Farquhar, quite a bit. Do you think this is kind of like an experiment in increasing the tier points? I know he had talked a little bit about having like the Pro League having more points, so you have more interesting tanks on the battlefield other than tier ones and stuff. Do you see this as kind of like an experiment in that, maybe?
Yeah, I'd say that's probably a pretty good example, or pretty good assumption. I know they're interested in testing out other formats just to see how they play. I think it was 44 points that was messed with at one point, 43 and 44 just led to like 2801 spam and stuff like that. It was like I don't remember exactly. I think it was like I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was kind of bad. But now that 2801s have been changed to tier 6 and it's 4 more points, I don't know. I should have thought about this more.
Here's a question on top of that then. With the tiering change of the VK 2801, do you think those extra tier points maybe make the VK 21 a little bit more viable as an option in a fast setup, or is it still just the nerfs that it had just too much?
Maybe one.
I think the biggest problem was the tier points for sure, but there's a little bit. I mean, it's not as good as it used to be, but so those points are more likely to go to artillery than anything else. Get a tier 6 artillery up to an 8, and then you've got 2 left over, which would bump both T1s up to T2s for advanced spotting, or a T1 and a Panzer 1C, something like that. But I wouldn't expect to see 2801s per se.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a bad move though.
It'd be also an interesting thing to see how that kind of jives with the changes to artillery in 8.6, where they're going to be going up to tier 10, where having a tier 8 artillery, where tier 8 might be the GW Panther. Um,
Hopefully.
yeah, hopefully. Um, so you'll kind of like need those extra points, which could then make it interesting on tank maps, or where we used to run, where we usually run 5 tanks, like on Himmelsdorf or something like that, where we can use those extra points instead of going into artillery, having tier 1s become like tier 3 or tier 2s that maybe have more effect, like we had in was it King of the Hill that we did that special format where we had like a
Hacks, I
tier
think.
3 light tank in it or something like that. That like
Is tier 4, and it was no
that was it.
lights,
That was
no
it.
lights at all, no lights, no arty. So they had to use the tier 4 medium or tier 4 TD as the M8A1 versus the Panzer 3 were the better choices, I think.
Yeah.
Which I thought that was entertaining, but obviously there lacks a lot of the dynamics that pop up with artillery and whatnot, and it's kind of a heavy-handed thing, deliberately trying to make people meet and clash quickly, because at the time the American market wasn't, esports scene wasn't really too keen on playing fast.
Yeah. So that could be an interesting thing. You raise the points because of the artillery change, so you can still have like GWPs as your main artillery, and you're looking at using 8 points for that. And then when you get to some of these, heavy tank maps, you have something more interesting than a tier 1 to run around. And I mean that you have that tier 4 tank running around things, and they can at least do damage to IS3s from behind everything. Maybe that'll make the overall battle more interesting. So I don't know.
If you think about it, Junior's mentioning this in chat, but I'll repeat it again for anybody who's watching. Perhaps this change is to prepare for the raise in arty. So all of a sudden GWPs and the things we use are going to be tier 8. So you need those 2 points. And then I know they have expressed an interest in getting the T1s to something a little bit more exciting. So probably T2s at that point. And that could be the intended change, right? Bump up
Yeah.
the arty for 2 points and then spend 2 more on T2s. But like you said, it opens up a lot of options for other things. TDs might even show up. Dear God, please no.
We'll see how much of an option that becomes. Get some crawls with that. All right, let's go ahead and move off the skirmish there. That's a good discussion there. Um, even though Soviet got us off topic at one point. NVIDIA, we have that coming right up on the horizon. That I believe starts on Monday next week, right? So we have the first place of that, and we're supposed to be getting accounts and all kinds of other stuff set up pretty soon. So hopefully we'll be hearing about that. I believe they're still looking at getting the actual brackets all set up. Um, so hopefully we'll have that soon, so we can start seeing who's going to be placed where. Obviously there was no real seeding done initially, but they are doing a pool play at first. So um, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see like how many battles we have with each other. It's kind of vague right now exactly how the pool play is going to go. So hopefully we'll know that by Monday when we actually play. But obviously, we'll be looking to cast that, myself, and Nagatron. So we'll be looking for replays from people that are in that. Try to get as many as possible, so we can have some good shows we can put up for you guys. So definitely be an eye out for that.
Yeah, guys, and I personally look forward to them because the stuff that I've seen behind the scenes from James and David coming up looks awesome. It's going to be a very exciting live casts. Well, I guess they're kind of replay casts, I guess, right? If
Yeah.
we were to use correct.
Yeah.
So replay casts, but I look forward to them, and so should you, because it's going to highlight some of the matches and go into this NVIDIA tournament. The very first really big tournament in the U.S., if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
$100,000 on the line and a bunch of other stuff. And we already know that the final is in
What is it? Santa Clara?
Santa Clara, California. So right there in the San Jose outskirts, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be very cool, especially like if people looking to come down for those finals. Wargaming headquarters is just up north. We can try to talk them into doing stuff for you guys. So I'm sure they'll have. They usually like doing a lot of community events, so I'm sure they'll do something big for when that tournament's going on too, since it's just right around the corner.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of the motivation and having the finals here in America instead of someplace where the game is already more popular, like Europe or Russia, which I know was on the table. Perhaps they're trying to kind of create an actual community event here in the United States, try and grow exposure and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to it, though. I know Relics is. We've been putting in a lot of work on the UI and the production and everything. Still a couple problems to solve because it's got to be done through replays, which you would not believe how problematic that can be. But it is good. It is going to be a lot of fun for us, and we look forward to our next live cast as well, where we can take a lot of these lessons in the new UI and use it in a less problematic setting.
Yeah, definitely. So the other thing going on is we have Alienware. The registration for the Alienware tournament ends on 5/8. So if you're looking to get a team in that, make sure you get that as soon as possible. I believe it's alienwarearena.com is the website for it. So you have to sign up and all kinds of weird different things. But make sure you go sign up for that. We actually have one of the guys we know, Clutch, who a lot of StarCraft 2 people will probably know, is actually going to be casting the finals for the Alienware, so that'll be pretty cool too. It'll be interesting to see exactly how he goes through all that. And that's pretty much it big for tournaments right now.
Isn't Alienware limited somehow in terms of
64 teams, I believe.
64 teams.
And is it
First come, first serve? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know if
and
it's
it's
filled up
still, is there still? Okay. I haven't checked it out myself. That website, man, is
Interesting.
needs a little bit of work.
It's the same interface that the NVIDIA one used, and I remember the first time I got on the NVIDIA one, like clicking in circles for about 5 minutes before I was like,
Yeah.
wait, what the?
What am I
What?
doing? Where am I?
Pro tip, just make an account and press the My Events button. Done. You can avoid the rest of the mess.
Yep. All right, so let's go ahead and move off of tournaments now. We'll get back around to some more tournament talk here in a little bit. So let's take a little bit of time to talk about Clan Wars. Obviously, we had the Soviet, please don't hurt yourself during this. Obviously, we had the 3 new mechanics added. We had riots. Boy, I can't even remember it off the top of my head now. See how important it is?
Ransacking, tank locking.
Okay, yeah. So,
That's the big one.
I mean, I haven't played any Clan Wars. I know Soviet hasn't. I think you did something. Did you lose a tank at all in any of the Clan Wars that you played to see how tank locking was working for you?
Yeah. I've only played one battle. I didn't lead it, but I played it, got in there. We finished a tournament and got in there late, which we're going to touch on this a little bit later, but I'm not as involved in Forge or the whole Clan Wars thing anymore. But basically, it was highway, and yeah, tank locking is a big deal. I think the 62A I lost just got unlocked last night, and we had a battle, so I think it was last Friday. something like that.
Huh.
Long
Does
time.
does it give you like a timer or a UI anywhere that shows you tank
Yeah,
clocking?
yeah, it's on your tank icon on the bottom. It's just this really annoying thing that reminds you can't play it in Clan Wars for like 120 hours or something ludicrous like that. As far as all this stuff goes, real quick, ransacking, not a problem. Although I hear or I understand it has some sort of effect on rioting, so I guess it can end up being a problem. Rioting, oh man. I don't think anybody expected it to go as badly and as quickly as it did, but riots appeared day one in all sorts of territories where people like had chips right next door and stuff like that. So the riot rate is pretty fast. It's almost like this whole thing is intended for teams to just march across territories and ransack everything.
Yeah.
But then that's even kind of harder because then you have tank locking. So it's a conflicting change. It's like play all the time, but have all the tanks,
Play all the
and
time until you run out of tanks.
we don't really know what's going on. Yeah, pretty much, dude.
Yeah.
You play a bunch of battles in one day, you can lose all your tanks.
Yeah, I sit in one of the Skype channels where they have a lot of Clan Wars people in it, and they were talking about the day after the change. There was territories that had like 10% chance or something like that, and like all of them had popped. Like all kinds of weird stuff. Like there's all this rioting territory all of a sudden in the open, and hey, let's all go land there.
Man, Ziv in chat just mentioned one example I already knew of. 3 riots in 3 days in Otter, and they only have 5 provinces. Yeah. Plus,
Jeez.
there's a lot of stuff where somebody takes over a territory and then it riots the next day on them.
So now the one thing I'm
That's
really
up, man.
curious to see is like, everybody knows death blossoming in Clan Wars, where you drop something down and you spit out chips. You on a phone call, Soviet? Yeah.
No.
Where death blossoming was always looked down on, like, oh, they death blossomed. That's so dishonorable. And I'm curious if like ransacking is the new dishonorable thing. Like you get into a territory and you just ransack all their stuff and leave. Is that like, is this the new
Mm,
dishonorable thing to
I,
do?
no, I wouldn't say so. Because you still have to take it. Really, the dishonorable thing, I think, is forced tank locking, which just makes Death Blossoming even more powerful. And I've said it before, it's war. You really shouldn't care whether the other side is crying about stuff. Where Death Blossoming is uncool is when you stand no chance of winning the war at all. You're the only people doing it, like you're a landing clan, you land on the landing, and then you shatter 3 stacks out, and then you only show up to one of them, and that forces the other team who can to show up all 3. That's just it's annoying and doesn't do anything. But if you're in a full out war and it's not just like little poking at people, I see no problem with it. It's a perfectly acceptable part of the game, and maybe some people may look down on it, and that can harm your diplomacy and whatnot. But ultimately, if it helps you win, then you should do it.
Yeah.
Especially with tank locking. If you just fill all those battles with tier 8s or whatever, because that was the problem before, is a lot of people had the bodies, right? But they didn't have uh, the tanks to show up to all those battles simultaneously. But if you get in there with ISUs and stuff like that, and you just dirt people down, you're locking their tanks. That's a huge problem for them. So Death Blossom, if you can afford the chips, lock as many tanks as you can. Profit.
Huh. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get off Clan Wars there, so Soviet can stop crying. I can feel his
Yes.
tears raining down. All right, so we'll go ahead and starting into our discussion topics. The first one thing we wanted to bring up, which we get asked about a lot on the stream lately, is an update on the Fulcrum team. So, David, I'm gonna let you take this over on as far as what's going on with us.
Okay. Simply put, it's been coming for a while, but it's gotten to a point where we need to be clearly separate from anybody else. It's always been kind of a source of confusion as to who is Forge, who is Fulcrum. And Forge was the clan, Fulcrum was the team. There was no direct affiliation other than the coincidence that Fulcrum was in Forge, but it wasn't a Forge team or anything like that. But in order to clear this up and to make sure they're not liable for anything we do and we're not liable for anything they do, et cetera, and to increase our exposure, we are leaving and creating just a little clan for our team so we can sport our own tag, I believe is the plan. But either way, we're separating. There's no hard feelings about this as far as I know, at least none on our side, none on any of the Forge leadership side. All this has been talked about. It's kind of inconvenient timing to leave the clan in the middle of a war, but ultimately Forge has always lived through these kinds of things, and just the 9 of us that were in there are not going to make a big impact on the clan. So that's what we're doing, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And the main thing I think we should emphasize is there's absolutely no drama. I think everybody was trying to like talk about all the time. They're like, "Oh my God, what happened? What happened? What happened?"
Were you kicked?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely. Well, I was playing around. I was trying to come up with some like nonsensical thing to say, but uh, basically nobody, there's no drama going on. Nobody got kicked. Nobody, there's no beefing or anything like that. Just a transition away from Clan Forge to our future clan, which is Fulcrum,
I think
most likely.
Forge leadership just got really tired of watching Soviet miss all the time on the stream, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's got to go. He's making us look bad."
As former commander, I kicked all of you. What?
Something like that. Something like that. All right. Well, let's go and get off that. So that's what's going on with that. There's the official word. We love Forge, but we are Fulcrum Gaming. So let's go ahead and jump into our review of the Championship League. So we are now halfway through the league here. So 6 battles through. It doesn't seem like a lot, but there's only 12 battles through the entire this portion of the league at least. And then I believe after that we have the playoffs that are going on. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the brackets are sitting at now. Let me make sure it all comes up all right. So here we go. This is the Major League standings right now of what we're looking at. So we have ourselves at the top here along with Simp. Then we have Pubstars Havoc, Mop 4, Turtle Police, Simple Tankers, Ermagard Canervan, and Strike White May in the top 8 right now. What do you guys think of that standing right now? It's kind of interesting to see Strike White May, who is a pretty new team. What do you guys think about this top 8 that we have?
Very, it's exciting for me to see new teams pop up, and especially this high in the ranking. Strike White May has proven a few times already in the previous challenges tournaments that they are worthy, that they can play with the big boys, and they're doing so now, holding that 8th spot. It's going to be a little hard for them though coming up. I think they still have a lot of higher teams to play against. I don't think they played with those, a lot of the guys that are in the top 8 position right now. So we might see that shuffle a little bit, but they're definitely worthy of staying in the major league and improving.
Yeah, definitely. Any thoughts, David?
Um, Ermagerd Kernavern.
What a name! What a name!
Favorite name. The only other tournament team I can think of that had a cooler name than that was it NTB2 Electric Boogaloo?
Oh yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
back on topic. And 2 girls, 1 crop.
Of course. Of course.
Really, I mean, it's still anyone's game here, especially all the teams that have only lost 1 total. Especially because a lot of those teams played their hardest parts of the bracket already, or the hardest parts of the pool. I think it's kind of strange that we don't play everyone else in the pool. Makes it kind of difficult to sort things. But
Like
I definitely
we don't fight like Mop 4 or anything, right? I don't think I remember seeing them on there.
no, we don't fight Mop 4 or Simp, I believe, till the playoffs or whatnot. And there's a couple other examples along that line. So some people may have easier brackets, whatever. There's also variance in map. So perhaps you play a team that's strong on open maps, whatever. Let's get away from that. Well, like Soviet said, I like seeing the new team. Strike White May has been very impressive. Riot is a relatively newer team, at least to our attention as well. Turtle Police doing very well, considering how they're not super new, but I mean they're definitely newer to more of a pro scene and sitting on top, taking 2 games from us, they were not an easy team at all.
Yeah.
Is very impressive. So I look forward to seeing how well they do against everybody else. Hopefully they do well, which then makes our losses look so much better. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of.
I
Go ahead.
I want to discuss Starry Night and Co. My Hardware Us brethren that are, that's a surprise for me personally. 0-6 they are. I know their team. We scrim against them a couple times. They definitely, have the potential, but right now sitting at the, pretty much the bottom of the bracket, they're tied for the last place there with more golds. I hope they improve. I hope they improve. I know they had
Yeah.
some tough matches. They played Mop 4. They played us, I think, 2 weeks ago. So a few tough teams for them. It's going to be now, we're at the halfway point, right, Relics?
Hmm.
So we're going to see a lot of these teams uh, sift through and get their final get closer to the actual positioning. It's going to be interesting to see whether those Ermagod, Canervan, and Strike White May will be able to stay in the top 8
Hmm.
because Wreak Havoc, in my opinion, is a very strong opponent. We've seen them on Battle Berlin. I was really impressed. I've never actually interacted with the guys. They're top-notch opponents. They're very good, to the point. You heard their comms if you guys watched the Battle of Berlin. So they definitely have what it takes, and I'm looking forward to seeing them go up and into the top 8. So yeah, exciting stuff gonna happen here right before the playoffs.
Yeah.
And the playoffs are coming when?
That's a good question. I don't think they have anything on the schedule here for.
Quarterfinals are May 24th. Semifinals May 25th, and finals June 1st is what I see here on the schedule. But that means that there are no playoff.
I thought there was a playoffs that they were going to do.
Wait,
Well,
wait, wait,
I'd
wait.
imagine that's what the quarterfinals, semifinals is. They're taking
Yeah,
so much of the bracket, either like the top 8 or the top 12, probably the top 8, and then
yeah,
putting them
top
through
8.
that up to the
Yeah,
finals, and
top 8.
then that's what actually determines who gets like the 200,000 per person gold prize at the end there,
Let's
which all of us really want.
real quickly here discuss the final maps. We have two quarterfinals. Quarterfinals and semifinals are going to be on Himmelsdorf, and for the finals, it's going to be Ruinberg. What do you guys think?
I don't know. That's kind of weird. So we have a city map and then a partial city map right after another. Like there's no. I mean, that's really going to be dependent on the team being strong in heavy tank play, and not
It
really a lot of the faster finesse play from like open maps either. I'm surprised there's not like a mix in those finals there.
Well, it's a common practice actually in Russia at least to have Himmelsdorf as one of the final maps because they find it as the most the worthy map for the finals. I like the way WCG was done, except I wish it was first to two victories on each map. Remember, they rotated maps.
Hmm.
You play
Hmm.
one game on one map, then another,
Hmm.
because that gives teams that have, for example, a very good arty player to showcase his game, and he can carry an entire team on, let's say, steps, and then all of a sudden they go into the city and they have to adjust. Always interesting to see how teams like that do it because very few players. Uh, can play arty really well and heavy tanks really well.
Hmm.
Relics definitely neither, but had to insert it there. Relics, sorry man.
I get it. I
But
get it.
okay, but yeah. So interesting map choices. I thought Himmelsdorf would be for for the actual finals and maybe Runeberg for semifinals, but
Yeah.
I don't mind it. Runeberg is definitely one of my favorite maps.
Yeah. I think I would
One
like to
thing
see a different quarterfinals map. Go ahead, David.
One thing that happened in WCG a couple different times that I thought was really cool was they didn't rotate or they didn't play you from both sides, which I didn't really like. But the way the map rotation went, maybe purely by coincidence, I'm not entirely sure how those were picked. Was it went city map, open map, and then a half and half map? And I think that is a very, very cool way of approaching things. If you have like Himmelsdorf, then Steps, and then Ensk or Ruinberg, that is cool because in one set you get to find out who is better at all three different types. And while any mistake can cause a loss, it's more fair overall, I think.
If I remember correctly, semifinals for WCG went Ensk, Himmelsdorf, and then Prokhorovka.
Sounds right.
And
In one set, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and then for the finals, I actually don't remember that one.
I know we started off on Ensk because
Okay,
we
well,
cried a lot during that.
Against
Vietnam.
Rush, against
Oh,
Right.
Rush,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
we were supposed to play Ensk, then Himmelsdorf, and it was followed by Steps, I believe. Or no,
No,
it
no,
was
no, no. Pro.
Prohorovka. Yeah.
Yeah, Prokhorovka.
Um, and like I said, I think that whole rotation is cool, but that would mean a whole lot of Himmelsdorf because there aren't really any other pure city maps.
Yeah. But I think at least when we're looking at the quarterfinals and final
It's
finals, we have at least a map that, or two maps that are good quality for tournaments. So it's good that we're not ending on like Siegfried line or something like that. Not that the
Well,
Siegfried
yeah.
line's used in tournaments, but there could be worse choices.
Yeah, it is.
Is it used in this? I didn't think Siegfried line was in the list.
No, it's not used in this, but it's used in tournaments.
Oh yeah, I was meaning the Pro League. I don't think they use Siegfried line in the Pro League anywhere. Have they?
Nope.
Yeah.
No. Abbey and Cliff are interesting maps that are currently seeing some play in Golden League. I know in the European League they were talking about, actually, and in the Russian League, they were talking about introducing Airfield into the tournament rotation.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, and
Hmm.
I don't know. They, for some reason, they really like it. I can see that map being
Nope.
very slow,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, it's
it's
it's kind of
big.
like a Siegfried line to me.
Yeah.
Um, there's just so many different roads, so many different options. How are you supposed to efficiently play when you have 7 tanks total and there's more than 7 different roads you can take? I'm sure, given time, there are ways to kind of slow things down and control it, but that's the key right there. Is it's going to have to be slow. You're not pushing fast anywhere on a map like that just because the risks are way too big.
Mm-hmm.
Airfield is, whew, terrible map.
And
Let's play El Haloof.
what about White Park?
Ugh.
It's seen
That's
some play in
Ugh.
Europe.
I don't like
Ugh.
Hyde Park.
It has seen some play in
Battle for
Europe,
the
and
8-9.
yeah, pretty much it
I
exactly
mean,
exactly
if
what
you're in the
happened.
north, you have no other option.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Yep.
you're in the south, you could do either one, but if you lose the 8-9 and they get in your base, you're done anyways. So
Just
it's
no.
battle for the 8-9.
They put basically a T1 or so in the 1-2, get eyes on that bridge crossing, and then scout running the middle, the railroad, and then of course everything else in 8-9. And the only thing is arty play becomes a bit critical there. In 8-9 you have some open spots, so arty player does have some nice shots to swing the game one way or the other.
The other problem with Arty Play though is that map like visually is so open that finding a safe spot to remain in artillery all the time with good shots is a pain in the butt. Like just about anywhere. There's only like one or two spots you can maybe go to and not have to worry about that for the most part of the map, and then it's obvious where you're going to be. And one of them puts you so close to the 1-2 line that you're at risk to any kind of T1s or anything, since you don't really want to push up that alley. So I don't know. That'd be a really awkward map, I think, to play on from my
Well,
Arty perspective.
it's definitely nice that we're seeing more of an effort to try and introduce maps. There's been talk that there's going to be maps that are specifically being built for the tournament scene. So
That'd be nice.
it's unconfirmed, but let's we can kind of say that this is something that is in the future, because we see World of Tanks making a push for esports. It just seems logical that they will be working on maps that are being built for tournaments from ground up.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go ahead and move over and talk a little bit about the minor league. So at the end of this specific season, the top 8 from the minor league are going to end up going to. Here, let me get it switched over here. Are going to be moving up into the majors. So we'll have some new competition brought in, and this will be the continuous rotation for it. Top 8 always moves up. Bottom 8 always move, I believe, down to the minors, right? They don't go all the way to the open, right? I believe
Right,
that's what it is.
minors.
Yeah, they go to minors. Yep.
So I was looking at the minor league setup here, and we have some teams that are obviously, at least I think, are pretty well known. We have like Simplistic up there, Victoria's Secrets, Bushti, who was in the WCG New York qualifiers. We have War and Peace. What do you guys think about this top minor league bracket so far? They're in the same situation we are, where they're 6 battles through their 12.
Lady of Guadalupe, Mexican Army clan. Interesting that they're in the top with teams like Simplistic, Victoria's Secret. Those guys have been in tournaments before. Bushti, of course, they renamed themselves to Purple. War and Peace, also look at that, in the 10th position. tied for 10th with Lucifer. So those clans, I would be those teams. I'm sorry, I would expect them to be near the top or at the top. But we see Lady of Guadalupe has 18 wins and 0 losses.
Yeah, that's pretty big. I know their bracket is actually considerably larger than ours. I believe they have 40 people. Maybe it's just
Er,
39.
39.
no, well, there's a lot of ties there, as you guys can see.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
So
the
the
19th spot.
positions are not, yeah. So the positions aren't exactly. I think it's actually even.
Maybe 50 people. No, that seems
Mm.
off. There's a lot of people in it. Not as much as the Open could possibly have, but um, I don't know. It's very interesting to see some of these teams that we at least know about and that they're going to move in and kind of join the majors next season. It seems like the majors are going to get I don't know, a lot more interesting. I think we'll have a lot more um, like trades of wins and losses. It's not going to be so 6-1, 5-1, 6-1, 5-1, or 6-0, all over the place. That maybe we'll have something that's a little bit closer of a tie around. Um,
Well, we'll see. I mean, right now, halfway point is a little hard to judge, as we saw with even the major league. There's a lot of teams that still have a lot of games to go through, and a lot of ties still left in place.
yeah, and the one other team I noticed is the P1 PL1AD. That's the new Polish team that's out, right? The new clan, correct?
It's not a new clan at all.
Is it not new? Oh,
No, but I think they're just now starting to make a concerted push for the esports scene. But they've been around for a long time.
yeah.
Long time. And for the record, it is 40 teams. 2 teams are tied for 39th.
Well, there's also a bunch of teams tied for 19th and 30th.
Right, but just trust me, it's 40.
Okay, I trust you. I trust you. All right, so that's we'll go ahead and finish up there with our look at it. It'll be very interesting to see what's going to happen in the next. I believe it's 3 weeks left that we have, 2 battles a week. So it'll be very interesting to see how the brackets end up on both sides and see what these playoffs end up looking like.
One thing
Go
I
ahead.
think that's worth mentioning is the Open League and a very strong team in the Open League, River of
Oh
Blood.
yeah,
So
can't forget them.
things things. A lot of people, when this whole thing started, were saying, "Oh, this is going to be so predictable." The top dogs are going to be in the top league. Everybody else is going to be in the minors in the Open League. But we see teams like River of Blood all the way down in the Open League. They're going to be, battling it out to get into the major league, and so to the minors first, David, and then to the major league. So they have to play 2 seasons to get to major league.
I didn't realize they were in the open.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because of
yeah,
Strike White May, I believe.
Yeah, Strike White May knocked him out in the first battle of the qualifiers for the leagues,
Didn't
and
that
that
put them in
automatically.
the minors?
Nope. If you lost it in the very first game, you go all the way into the Open League.
I think it was like the first 2 or 3 games were all the way down to the
Oh,
Open. Yeah.
but
But
yeah,
I've actually talked to them quite a little bit. I wouldn't say quite a bit, a little bit, and then they're just gonna fight their way through it. And I think it's gonna be really interesting when we actually get them, like we get that season where they come into the majors and nobody's heard of them for so long. Then it's kind of like surprise, we're back because they were a really good team. They are a really good team, so it'll be really interesting to see how they kind of shake that up when it comes to that.
Yeah, for sure.
and they'll get in a lot of practice because they'll be playing a lot more games than all of us in the major league, due to the fact that team sizes are the league is bigger, the Open League and the minor league.
Yeah.
It's true. They always had very intelligent strategies and setups. It wasn't necessarily the most obvious thing. They didn't just ram stuff down your throat and expect to out-tank you. There was always finesse. There was always some sort of thought behind it. Except for like 1 or 2 tournaments where nobody had any finesse or any logic. I think it was Himmelsdorf where we ended up just kind of like running into each other like, maybe this will
Let's
work.
just go.
It's skirmish. But whatever. Yeah, they're... It'd be interesting to see them come back.
Yeah. We'll definitely be following you guys. We'll be
Yeah.
watching. All right, so let's go ahead and move off of the league. We have our 2 other discussion topics that we have right now. We'll go to the first one, which is why do you think World of Tanks is less popular in the United States? And we'll go ahead and tackle, what maybe we can do to try to make it more popular. Obviously, in Russia and Europe, it's kind of kind of a big deal over there right now. Mostly in Russia. I mean, Russia, it's absolutely huge. I think you guys told me a joke a long time ago where like the two things in common is vodka and World of Tanks or something like that. But why do you think it's? Don't give me that look. Why do you guys think it's less popular here in the U.S. compared to overseas?
You want to take
Okay.
that one?
All right. Well, we actually we've actually seen many discussions in the streams before for the chat. Through the chat, a lot of guys talking about, oh my God, they'll come into our stream and see 20,000 players. That's all you guys have, really? I want to move to your server. I want to play there. That's awesome. And they of course don't realize that even though we have 24,000 players, the bell curve still does its job, and we still have a lot of players that are uh, less than average, average, and above average. It all spreads out. The bell curve works everywhere. So, uh, you know. But the main thing, they're like, oh my God, I'm going to be so great out of the 24,000 players. That's not really, that's not really how it works. Anyways, the popularity of the game in Russia, very popular because, well, World War II theme is, of course, very close to heart there, and in Europe as well. And the other thing that was brought up in chat, especially yesterday, we had some Russian players come in and English players, and they kind of went at it for a little bit. Advertising, they're saying. So a lot of the U.S. players that were in our chat saying that World of Tanks is. I'm sorry, a lot of EU players that were in chat were saying World of Tanks is not as advertised in the US as it is in Europe and in Russia. Of course, Russia, it's the game. Russia, it's developed by Belarusian team and the Russian developers as well. So you can Belarus and Russia. A lot of people are like, oh my God, Belarus and Russia are so separate, but we're so close as a people, Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus, that they all consider themselves pretty much, like this, like brothers, really. So it's all, it's very popular amongst the Russians and a Russian-speaking community. So we see like millions of players play there. And Relics, I'm not sure about the vodka. I think you made that one up.
I
Not the
swear
first thing that you made
Nagatron
up,
told me it.
but there's stories that I keep hearing from Russian players. They're like, oh yeah, you'll be walking to, on the street randomly, and you'll hear like a bunch of school kids talking about how to penetrate the IS-3, for example, or you'll go into like a store, and the security guard will be like, oh, you can come up to him and be like, hey, do you play tanks? And you'll be like, yeah, sure. What's your nickname? So it's crazy, status over there. Really, exciting to walk around and just be able to talk about the game. Definitely not something you can do here in the U.S. Yeah, I never had a, whoever asked me, whoever knows that I play games competitively or not, or casually, they'll be asking me, oh, what game do you play? And they'll be expecting the usual, like, Battlefield 3 or something. And, you tell them World of Tanks, and they'll be like, oh, okay.
Sure. I
So,
don't know what that
yeah,
is,
sure.
but
Cool, yeah. So,
so
advertisement.
so what you're saying is, when we go to Russia eventually, that Hugo will be able to pick up chicks with his score.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Still won't help.
Still won't help him. Okay.
Um, Man, I think it's a pretty Jack. It's a pretty complicated question. First off, we've talked about a lot of these variables before, so I won't stick on them too long. It was advertised strangely, calling it an MMO. I mean, every game that comes out now is an MMO. Don't do that. Everybody just thinks World of Warcraft. And I've talked to people in Europe and Russia, and when I tell them that, they're like, what? That's not what we thought. And it's like, well, there's a huge culture difference for you. Here, you start anything with World of, and boom, you got a picture of like an orc running around your head. Done. You are done. They're like, why am I going to quit World of Warcraft when I've been playing it for 2 years to go play some other game? That's already been done about 9 different times. Warhammer Online, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all those games failed too. So there's a step one. Don't advertise it as an MMO. Advertise it as just a tank game. Do you like Battlefield? Do you just want to play the tanks all the time with no pesky AT guns or helicopters or planes? Then come play our game. That would be better.
Yeah.
It's a hard game. Americans don't like hard games, by and large. It's true. you look at some of the most popular games out there are also some of the easiest games out there. For a while, wasn't Farmville making more money than anything else simply
Oh God.
because
Yeah.
anyone could play it? Anyone?
Soviets everywhere with
Um,
that.
there's tons of stuff like that. And then if you think about it, sometimes it's even if you like the game, sometimes it gets hard to convince yourself to log in that day and be like, you know what? I really feel like doing some random pub battles and playing El Halou 50% of the day. That'll be awesome. So
Sweet.
you really have to be dedicated to it, and you have to be a special type of person who enjoys the challenge, who enjoys uh, trying to win, even though the odds are stacked against you. And getting involved in clan wars or tournaments and stuff like that is also another major draw. But you see that most of the people we lose in the United States, we lose before they've even played 1,000 battles. So I think it's a lack of transparency in mechanics and a bunch of other stuff. You just log in, invisible tanks, gold, et cetera, et cetera. There's a million different things you can look at, and not a million, but you can look up right off the bat and convince yourself that it's not worth the time. And in America in particular, it's a very sensitive market to those kinds of things. So
Yeah.
it's going to be harder here than anywhere else.
Yeah, I know we've had discussions around like when I was trying to talk you into playing this game, and it was MMO. What?
Yeah,
I'm not gonna play that.
that's a perfect example.
No, dude, it's World War II tanks. You just drive
I've
around
been
and shoot.
I've been playing with Relics for years, and then we were playing Battlefield, and then all of a
I feel
sudden,
bad for you.
he keeps trying to pitch to me World of Tanks for a really long time, and every single time I was like, no, it sounds like the worst game I've ever heard of. I don't want to quest in a tank, and then he tells me it's just World War II tanks. You drive around and kill each other, and all of a sudden I was like, well, then let's go play it.
What have we
Which-
been waiting for?
How it worked for the rest of our friends too. They were like, no, dude, I don't want to play that game, and I'm like, dude, it's World War II tanks. And they're like, wait, what? Huh?
Another, I'm surprised, we haven't talked about it. You didn't bring it up yet. Was the fact that there hasn't been an esport league here yet to date. So, League of Legends, right? As far as I know, from the very limited knowledge that I have, because that game just blows my mind. It's also complicated, right? It's crazy, stupid, and but it became popular because of esports, didn't it?
You throw a couple $1 million at a game, and all of a sudden everybody wants to play it and watch the pros do it because there's all this money on the line. Yeah, that was. I think that's the only reason that League of Legends really is successful over all the other MOBAs, and I guess us getting that now, so maybe we'll start seeing some of that. Bring more of the interest in World of Tanks. So yeah, that's definitely a good point. So let's jump onto the other part of that question, and what do you guys think wargaming can do to try to increase popularity in North America, increase exposure in North America? I mean, we have so many gamers in North America because we're all so lazy, and that's all we want to do. I mean, what do you guys think is some things they could be doing? Sovietsky, you want to take that first? Huh?
Well, I think they're already doing it. It's just taking so long to get the things get the momentum going. The league that started the championship series from the esport perspective, that's gonna entice a lot of players to play and motivate them. The prize, the money. The one thing about gaming in the U.S. in general, I think the it's very casual. From one, and I'm sure we'll get into it in our next topic. But gamers are either very casual, and then there's a big gap between casual gamers and then those gamers that take the game, whatever they play, seriously. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
And I think in order to, well, entice more of a population, there has to be a push on both fronts: marketing, advertisement, and the esport department.
Yeah. What do you think, David?
Pretty much what he said. Esports is a good one. I think there's a lot of different changes to the game that could make it more palatable to a North American market, but primarily options and quicker success to anything. If you can start doing little PvE adventures or whatnot, now we're actually starting to get into questing, more be like raiding, but whatever.
But you'll be in World
You
War
go
II tanks.
go
blowing
play
stuff up.
some AI tanks. You drive around your Sherman as soon as you get it and go kill some tigers or whatnot with some buddies. Then you've got some level of success, and you're not just getting pounded by people shooting heat rounds or out of derps and whatnot before you actually get to a place where the game becomes more enjoyable on its own. At least for me, I didn't like 6 and below at all. It was really started picking up for me when I got 7, and then 8 was like, okay, this game is awesome.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All right, let's
That was a long time ago, though.
yeah, let's go ahead and jump off this topic, and we'll go ahead and this is essentially a part of the Q&A, and then we'll go ahead and jump into the regular Q&A. But we had a really good question from what is it, Ciliaris?
Yep.
Yeah. Um, so here's his question. In one of the bigger online newspapers in Norway, there was a small discussion on gaming and people's view on that. To use your spare time to read a book, watch TV, read a book, or play golf is okay, but to play video games is not accepted in the same way, especially from your better halves. How is this, or I'm sorry, how is that for you in Fulcrum, that you have been traveling out of town, doing tournaments and all that? Does your family or friends accept your hobby? So we'll just round robin this. You want to tackle this first, Soviet?
Come on, man. Why are you picking
all right.
on me all the time?
David, you take it.
I'm tired of this.
You take it first, David. He's whiny.
Um,
It's past his bedtime.
this is something that I encountered with my family a long time ago, way before World of Tanks or anything else. And I always countered with, how many hours a day do you spend watching TV? Do you think about it? Because sometimes my dad in particular like to argue that if he was watching then something that a little bit more cerebral, like a Star Trek show, or he was really into CSI for a while. Those kinds of things make you think, so they're not a total waste of time. To which I countered, well, I'm playing situations or games where I have to problem solve. I have to come up with creative solutions. Sometimes I'm modding, sometimes I'm doing other things. I'm definitely using my brain all the time. So we had that argument quite a bit, and I tried to pull articles and stuff like that I found online about improving, your problem solving or your hand-eye coordination, things like that. And eventually, it basically just started leaving me alone about it when I was in high school and college and whatnot. But obviously, seeing us play live in South by Southwest and winning money, getting trips and stuff like that, that's kind of sunk in a little bit more to them now that they realize it's just another form of the entertainment industry, and there's certainly legitimacy to it.
Do you want to tackle it now, Soviet? Are you okay now?
I'll let you go in front of me,
Okay,
Alex.
okay.
Elderly first.
Well, I mean, at least for me, I mean, gaming. While I've done some like eSports type stuff with like Counter-Strike and everything, it's never really been something that my family's been like, "Oh, wow, that's so awesome." But they've been, it's just he spends his hobby is gaming. That's what he does. But definitely the whole thing with Fulcrum Gaming and World of Tanks and the stuff we did with Curse for a while, like seeing stuff like actually being produced by us, seeing videos and everything. And even if they didn't understand any of it, they're really supportive because they're like, "Oh, this is really cool. This is big. People are watching this. People like this." And then going into the tournaments, I mean, they're really excited to see that kind of stuff going on. So as far as for me, I mean, everybody's super supportive of it, and have taken actually a little bit more interest in gaming and like the potential of what that has for, the future going forward. So, go ahead. It's your turn now.
Okay. It's a tough subject for me because from one side, my generation, well, our generation, we've been growing up around computers all the time, and our peers pretty much all have been exposed to some sort of gaming, whether it's casual consoles or portable devices now, or more PC gaming. I've always been around PCs pretty much from since I was 3, so I've been playing all the games, kind of growing with everything. Simulation was my big thing. Shooters came around. Shooters, then strategies, and all of that kind of building up. One thing, though, I've always, even on my personal level, doubted the fact that gaming would take off. That's part of my upbringing, part of my, I guess, schooling and whatnot. So it was very hard for me to break that even internally. We're talking right now, the question was more about external stuff. For me, I had to face that challenge on my personal level before actually having to deal with it on how people portray me in terms of me being a gamer. So Tanks actually, well, I've played, of course, played Counter-Strike, but that was all online. It was never live tournaments or anything for me, at least. and I played Operation Flashpoint, very, very popular game actually. It was in the ESL League. Played that there as well. Also, of course, only online. For those of you that don't know, Operation Flashpoint is the predecessor of Arma, and Arma 2, Arma 3 now. So for me, when I saw, well, first of all, the very first kind of exposure to it was New York. I kind of saw, wow, this thing is for real, and and then of course WCG China. China definitely, personally opened my eyes to the fact that this is this is as serious as it gets, pretty much. Thousands of people coming in, watching everybody play various games. Some of them not so exciting, but still watching them and looking and taking it all in. And that really showed me personally that the generations that are growing up and the generations that are passing now will eventually, gaming will become a very central topic. I know a lot of people are saying in 10 or so years gaming will be just as popular as pro sports themselves. Interesting. I'm a believer now, and I think people around me that have been interacting and that know that I'm into gaming as much as I am are starting to realize it as well. One of my friends, a big hockey player, for example, he's all about sports, all about athletics, and even he now is realizing, man, I'm playing in a adult league, right? He's playing in all these leagues, hockey leagues, and it's like, you win a little trophy, and that's it. But he's like, but you are, sitting here, and you're able to make pretty decent money for playing a game. That's something that a lot of people don't realize and they have this stereotype that a gamer is a loser. But so it's definitely changing, and perception around me. I of course don't tell it to everybody, but those that do know, they think that it's definitely cool.
Yeah, I think you're right. That the perception overall, as this generation kind of goes, is it's becoming more and more acceptable as something for people to do, especially like looking at like you said, WCG China. That was a big one for me too. Is having people coming up to us, want to take pictures with us, not knowing who we are. We're just Team USA. Um, I think that's going to get bigger and bigger as time goes on. So hopefully, all those perceptions that they're talking about, like it as a separate hobby, will go away. Um, so yeah.
And we as players that do take the game seriously, and everybody else who's playing other gaming titles, need to set an example. It's very critical for the US to have an example to see how it's done, how it should be approached. And right now in Korea it has already developed, right? In Asian countries, and even in Russia, we are seeing very huge communities. In Europe as well. In the U.S., there's some, and of course, the main games, Dota 2, League of Legends, StarCraft, all those, have showcased it, and they're setting the standard, and hopefully we'll continue the same with World of Tanks.
Yeah, you see a lot of continuous coverage with like ESL and StarLadder and all those, with Europe and Russia. So I'm really surprised we don't have more of that over here. But so hopefully that popularity will grow. So that's it that we have this week for all of our topics. So we'll go ahead and just go into Q&A. We'll hang out for a little bit, just answer questions. I do have one question that Jackie, or actually two questions that Jackie has posted for me. Look at him paying attention. What a good little guy. So our first question here is from Chronic Pain. Can you guys talk about the hack package that got notoriety recently? Oh boy, we've been talking a lot about that. You want to talk about that one, David? You're a resident mod expert here.
Somebody stole our I mean, what?
How do you think we win all the time? Jeez.
Win all the time. I wish. I've gone through a lot of mod files myself, for a variety of reasons. Modding for our casts, modding to put stuff up on the Curse website, etc. There's a lot of stuff in there that can be abused. As shown, you can pull a lot of values out of the game, a lot of metrics, reload times, velocities, stuff like that. And if you write exterior scripts to take advantage of that stuff, you can feasibly get a working auto aim. It needs to be solved. They need to take it more seriously, look at it, and have a very, very restrictive API out there, and then I don't know the details of how you would do this. I've just heard terms before, but there are ways of verifying whether those mods that get put in there are legit or not, or have been approved. But unfortunately for wargaming, it's going to cost them money. They're going to have to spend money on having people basically run official mod sites, choose what is and is not allowed, and that's it. And some people may complain about that, but it has to be done. Skins a long time ago were just the beginning, and anybody who played Counter-Strike remembers that was just the beginning there too. All of a sudden people are pink and doors are clear and I can see through walls now, and then, well, you technically could have done that anyway, so it's not a huge advantage. And then you put them all together and somebody's throwing a grenade through, over 4 different rooms and hitting you in the face with it. And it's like, well, couldn't have done that without the mods.
Yeah.
And we're going to get there really quickly. Really, really quickly, if we're not already there. And I wouldn't be surprised from my experience in other games if we are already there. And it's just now becoming public because people are leaking it. Usually hack communities keep that stuff under lock and key, and nobody knows about it until months after.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Go ahead.
I'm glad this is happening because it's going to serve as a catalyst to finally push. They've been talking about it for so long for leagues to restrict mods and whatnot. Of course, random battles, that's going to be a little difficult. They'll have to do the whitelisting, blacklisting, or some sort of a model there. But I hope this serves as a catalyst for wargaming to finally say, listen, all this content that's coming out, we don't care. This is the priority right now. We need to fix this, or we're potentially going to lose our game. It can happen if a game gets that reputation and it spreads virally about the fact that don't play this game. It's a bunch of hackers. That's it. Your game, your audience, everything is just gone, and it's going to be really hard to work back and break that stereotype that it was made about your game.
Yeah, definitely. And when you have stuff like the big NVIDIA tournament coming up where they're putting up $100,000 prize pool, and most of those battles are online, I mean, that calls into question so much of the teams that get up to the top of that, whether or not they're using legitimate practices to be able to win those battles.
Here's the benefit to that tournament, and compared to most other things, mods of any kind are outlawed entirely in that tournament. There's no Zoom, there's no nothing. And I can tell you, as a caster, and as somebody who's gone through all these mods before, I know what they look like in replays, whether they're in or not. So, start seeing you shoot through bushes, there's no way in hell you can see through. Start seeing you zoom out to about 500 meters, which, by the way, shows up whether you have that mod installed or not. Mm-hmm. You best believe that's going to get reported. Sorry. It's in the rules.
The mod police has spoken.
Somebody else is going to see it anyways. We're not going to be the only one reviewing these things. So,
definitely.
You're going to get caught, so just don't even bother.
And that's why, on the stream, we're always encouraging, we're always talking, a lot of players coming in, always asking, oh, whoa, Soviet, why are you not running mods? What's up with that, And we always have to explain that this is exactly why. We don't want to build any habits out of the mods that, adjust gameplay in any way. Zoom out mod, awesome mod. I would use it all the time if it was allowed, for example. Definitely, I would be using it because it gives you such a great advantage over players that are not using it. It's being able to see around the corner, being able to zoom out, see what's breaking or what's not in front of you. Mm-hmm. All of that stuff is critical for gameplay, but not using it because of tournaments. And finally, this is hopefully going to serve as a catalyst for wargaming development team to put a stop to all of this and put grasp on it.
Yeah,
there's some interesting arguments that say that there's like minimap mods out there, for example, that keep track of the last known location of a tank. So when it's no longer spotted, like a grayed out version of it stays on the map. All these tanks are also labeled 1390 or 5100, whatever. And on top of that, then you have stuff like your view range is a circle on the minimap. The render range of the game is a square on the minimap, and all sorts of other stuff gets put in there, like lines to artillery if the artillery shoots. I mean. And I've heard the argument, well, these are all things you can do on your own. And you have to do them.
Not.
That's the point. Some of them you can't, like finding out immediately where an artillery is with a guaranteed line. You can't do that. But where you last saw tanks, what the tanks are, sure, you can do that. You can spend the seconds communicating between your team to find out where they are. And I'm talking tournaments only. Obviously in pubs, this is totally different. But that's the thing is you have to do that. You have to spend 5 seconds discussing what tank is that? IS-3. Okay, where was this guy last seen? You have to talk about that. And if it's all just given to you, then we're stripping away a lot of what makes good players good. And all of a sudden, all you now have to do is shoot. Well, if we're on that topic, we can write mods. It's becoming very clear that you can adjust auto aim and hit a target by leading it. Well, I could do that on my own, right? So how is that illegal? Well, the point is you have to. You actually have to click it. So that whole argument is just ludicrous to me, but just kind of arguing against a straw man here, so I'll let it go.
Stripey had a good follow-up question. Relics, do you see it in chat?
Yes. He has one question about mods, please. Your view on plain and simple mods, server crosshairs, and timer for reload. You want to tackle that one, Soviet?
Well, we discussed it previously, and I think mods that do not give any new capability to a player that he wouldn't have without them are fine. Graphical interface mods, you want your crosshair to look pink and pretty with a little pony on the side. Sure,
Sweet.
you want relics as your Sixth Sense icon. Sure, all of that is fine. I think the moment you start going into mods that make something available that wasn't there before, that help you perform one task or the other by introducing a new functionality, doing something for you, counting, calculating, I don't know, triangulating, whatever it is, shouldn't be there.
I will say one change to that I personally would make is stuff like the reload countdown timers and maybe the dart artillery for like time to target, but that's even kind of still pushing it. But I really think stuff like just having a set timer that says it takes 5.1 seconds for this to reload. I don't think that is damaging at all, and I think that should be something that's like built in to the actual.
Sure, and I think it should be optional in the client already. With a stock client, you should be able, you go into the game for the first time, it's very simple, clear, nothing cluttering your display. So players that are just starting the game, off they go, just playing. They're enjoying themselves, they're learning the game. Eventually, when they start, growing and understanding the mechanics, they can go into their general tab of the client and enable, turn on the counter for reload, turn on the counter for repairing modules and whatnot.
Change colors.
Yeah.
Change icons.
They're
all
I
great
hate
to just be standard.
I hate to
Really.
bring World of Warcraft into anything, but I mean the one really good thing they did information-wise was like you look at any ability they have, and you can turn on whether you want detailed information or not. And I could look over this ability's formula is my something or other times something or other sometimes something or other, and then I'd know, okay, this is what that's going to work out to. If I improve this specific thing, then it's going to get better. And I think that information, especially for newer players, is, extremely helpful for them to learn the game and get better at it. I mean, that's stuff that should be just transparent.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed that Wargaming has been implementing stuff from the community, right? Overhead target markers have been implemented. We see stuff coming in, but it's so slow that it's all happening. Now, once again, I hope this coming into light, all these mods that are questionable. I mean, we could call them hacks, but at the same time, they're not hacks because they're not breaking. They're using what's already there, right? I mean, it's not. It's being open. It's open. It's left open by the developers, so it's their fault for leaving it open or not seeing far enough to lock it up and have that, I don't know, encrypted or just in locked DLL files or something.
Soft hacking is the term that I've always heard for it. Yeah, I had a point. I forgot it.
All right, let's see. Any other questions we have out there? We'll probably go for another 5 minutes at most, and then I think we got practice and stuff today.
I remember what it was, though. I wouldn't be surprised if Wargaming is actually working on all this stuff. Like they've got a large implementation that they're getting ready to release at some point, and rather than fix all these things very quickly through the way the engine is and everything right now, they're just postponing that a little bit to have one large, very clear, very comprehensive fix all at once. They bought the Big World engine for a reason, and it was to fix the Big World engine because they were already on it. And that's my understanding of it, at least. And hopefully that gets here quickly, and it's just Watt 9.0 or Watt 10 or whatever, but it happens quick. Something, whole new engine for the love, because this one doesn't work.
It's just the pressure on them right now, especially with this is critical.
Yeah.
It's an impossible situation, right? You've got to grow and you've got to completely overhaul everything while at the same time not having a downtime that totally kills your game and without causing all sorts of bugs. I mean, what do you do? And that's a very common thing for any company, let alone gaming industry, to get into. Just grow very fast and you got to find a way to catch up.
24/7 shift work, good. Vodka and bread. That's it.
That's all you
That's the
need.
advantage of a Russian dev team.
Definitely.
Borscht station, vodka station, workstation.
And see, the only two things in common, vodka and World of Tanks. How does that not work when you're saying that they have vodka everywhere? Come on. All right.
Joke isn't going to work when you try it a second time.
Dang it. It was your joke.
No, it wasn't.
It
Never
was.
said that.
I swear I got it from you.
I never said it. Not once in my life.
Okay.
Do you see another question?
You said Jackie had two questions, Relics.
Well, his other question. Yeah, okay, we'll pose this other question. This is from Sovieter 2015. He asked for any tactic advice for the KV-1S tree.
Okay.
You want me to ask it?
Sure.
Yeah.
KV-1S tree is more mobile out of the two trees for Russian heavy tanks. So use the mobility. Of course, once you get to the IS-3, you're just gonna love the game. IS-3 best tank in the game. And KV-1S though, you're kind of a glass cannon, right? It's a little bit harder to play with it in terms of angling it. It's a little tough. There's always weak spots to go for. You angle it too much, you'll have the front roller exposed, and teams will be doing damage. So you kind of have to play it like an American heavy in a way. Use it, more from a hull down position almost to do the damage. And yeah, I mean, the turret is not as good as well, but the hull is also very weak. So
I mean, if it's an option, yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Yeah, are you gonna finish?
well, otherwise the mobility. Utilize the mobility. Come in, just guns blazing. Run by the whatever opponent you're trying to kill. Encircle him and just go through him. And that gun is nice on the IS, the top gun. KV1, sorry, the KV1S. Once you get to the top guns, you're starting to do some good damage.
For me, with the KV-1S, because it's got, was it a Soviet-specific question?
You go ahead. You go ahead.
Because the Alpha is just so nasty. The key to me on most IS tanks, particularly ones without armor, like the IS-1 or 1/2, and the KV-1S, not so much the IS-3, is you just poke out, get your shot in, and get tucked back for the entirety of the time you reload. That's the key to me, is getting as many shots on them before they can shoot you back, which seems pretty obvious, but it's playing into the hands of Alpha, is just not committing yourself where you're in a damage race, but keeping a distance and getting shots in before they can get to you. That's where you'll equalize the playing ground. So otherwise, you get a faster tank, like even an M4 Sherman or something like that, gets on top of you, and he's going to do a similar amount of damage with a much lower reload time, and you're going to lose, no doubt about it. So track shots, and getting as many shots on them before they get to you is very important.
All right, we'll do one more question here because I think this is a good question, and it's tournament related, so we always love those. So this is from G-Forcer. What do you think about the added new, the dynamic of teams picking maps as seen in the upcoming NVIDIA tournament? So for those of you that don't know, the upcoming NVIDIA tournament, the way it works out is there's a home team and there's an away team. The first match that you have, the home team gets to pick what map that it's going to be on, and the away team gets to pick what side they're going to be on. And then the second match, the away team gets to pick the map, and the home team then gets to pick which side they want to be on. And then the last map, the third map, should they get to that, is a default map picked for that week. I believe it's either that week or that day. That's picked by NVIDIA, and then I believe the home team gets to pick what side of the map they're on. Um, so, what do you guys think about that? About picking the map that you want to play on? I think it's a very interesting way of doing the tournament because then you get to pick the maps that play to your strengths. But what are your thoughts on it?
I'm glad I'm not Negatron. In this situation, you have to deal with all of that.
What map do I want to
Fine.
pick for my team?
I'm
Just make
just gonna sit
just make
back.
friction do it. um, realistically, I would probably pick more maps that I don't think the opponent is better at. So less playing to our advantages and more playing to their weaknesses or our advantages over them, not just objective advantages or what we're best at. Uh, so I don't know. Probably just maps we're most comfortable on would be the easiest answer. Try and steer away from new maps unless we know the other team has less comfort on a new map than we do. In which case, we'll pick those. It's
Do you like the dynamic
hard to
though
answer.
of being able to pick which map you're gonna pull out?
I could take it or leave it, honestly. My opinion on tank picking and map picking and all that is just that there's already so many decisions and whatnot going on in the game. I just want to play the game. I think a nicely scheduled map rotation is probably more ideal in my opinion. So, like we were talking about before, like city map, open map, combination map, something like that. I think jumping around just gets into places where people may have crazy gimmicks, like maybe you have to play Lakeville and they've got a city feint followed by a valley rush and they've got it really worked out, and then you get one shot at it, they win because they had a prepped gimmick, and then you don't play it again. Um, I'm not a big fan of that. I'd rather find out who is absolutely best consistently, not just on a single map a single time. So I'd like to play a map more than once, and I would like it if it was just decided personally. But
Cool.
I could take it or leave it. Doesn't really matter to me.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll unless you have anything to add to that, Soviet. Anything?
No, I think that summarizes it. And once again, just glad that
That's about what I
as a
thought.
player, I get to concentrate on my things and making fun of relics right before battle. So
We get to concentrate on doing the robot while they make decisions for us.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. All right. We'll go ahead and end the episode there today. Are you gonna do any? We have practice in what, an hour, right?
I don't know, when is our practice. David, do you know?
Oh, leader of leaders.
I think 10:30 is the scrimmage time.
So we know if we can cast any games in between. I don't know. Do you want to do anything after the
I,
Soviet?
I know that you do casts
Hold on.
usually because
It's
you're
in an
not
hour.
actually
I'm
playing.
almost positive. Yeah, 10 Eastern.
Okay.
10 Eastern, okay.
So probably not. We probably need to get food and everything. So we might not cast. We might cast something after. Do some streaming after the practice, depending on how late it goes.
I mean, I might warm up a few rounds because
Okay. Okay.
Russians don't eat much.
Yeah. They just drink vodka and eat bread.
Just depleted uranium.
You eat.
Take out,
Oh.
put in new.
Oh god, I'm ending this. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us for episode 6. Be sure you stay tuned to next week. I am going to have an announcement at some point this week as to what our new day is going to be on, because Thursdays are now going to be the NVIDIA day, and I don't want to put this like crazy early because then more people are going to miss out on it. So maybe we'll actually move it a little bit later on, like a Wednesday or something. We'll put an announcement out for that. Be sure, of course, to follow us on our Twitch channel. Go to our Facebook and like us.
One thing
One thing.
I want to mention.
One.
One thing I want to mention is YouTube. Our YouTube channel has all the VODs now. We're trying to upload all the streaming ones. We've had a few requests, to upload our streaming sessions to YouTube, and also we have a little section for highlights and guides up on YouTube. I'll be trying to upload, games that are very good during our session, cut them out, and throw them in there. As well as in the future, we're planning to do a guide section on each specific tank, so you'll be able to find that on our YouTube channel. So definitely subscribe and keep an eye on it.
Yes, yes, yes. Anything else you guys want to add? Give a goodbye? Adios? Do you want to sing the Mickey Mouse goodbye song or anything?
Definitely not.
No. Come on. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us again, and have a good one.
Spasiba. Spasiba. Take care, guys.